you will be about the only person who fancies Brave Man's Game as well, I reckon, because people are kind of taken against him, haven't they? Have they done what you suggested they do?
Jump a fence. He jumped one loose after so I didn't see now, but
Did he?
I was totally jumped one loose.
Good horses come out of that and run well in the top races. So I think he offers hope. That's the word.
Lucinda?
I'd definitely go for the Gold Cup. Why not?
Hi there, very warm welcome to a special edition of William Hill's Inside Track. It is a Grand National special as well, and really pleased to be joined here at Arlery Stables, the home of Lucinda Russell Racing, by Lucinda herself, dual Grand National winning trainer, 2 Grand Nationals for Lucinda, 1 Grand National for our other William Hill ambassador, Barry Geraghty, Monty's Pass in 2003. And although officially he's holding up 4 fingers, there are no Grand Nationals for multiple champion jockey Peter Scudamore. He's been responsible for either part training or buying no fewer than 4 of them. So there's Grand Nationals everywhere here, and we're going to get stuck into this year's race in a few moments' time. First of all, though, we do have an offer for you every day of the Grand National meeting. William Hill have a top price guarantee each day. We'll also be going 6 places for online each-way bets in the National, and that's not all. William Hill had more top prices than other major bookmakers at the Cheltenham Festival, verified by Oddschecker. That's proper value. Now the housekeeping's out of the way, let's get stuck in to this year's runners and riders. And as we're filming today, the favourite for the race is Intense Raffles, who's trained by Tom Gibney. He'll be the mount of JJ Slevin, the retained rider for owners Simon Munir and Isaac Swed. And with the Gold Cup winner, I know the way you're thinking, out of the race, Barry Geraghty, it looks as though last year's Irish Grand National winner has an excellent chance. Does he deserve to be favourite, do you think?
I think on the book he does. Good performance in Furious last time. The handicappers put him up £5, which he doesn't carry at Aintree. But his form is all on soft ground, soft or heavy. So that would be the slight concern I'd have. I think he's a very good horse. As I say, easy to make him favourite, but his form is, with the exception, I think, of his first win in France at the start of his career, first run was on yielding or good to soft, but he's been soft and heavy ever since.
So you just wanted to keep raining for him?
I'd say so, and I'm not sure that's the case, is it?
Not
in the short term.
Necessarily, but I guess now, Lucinda, the ground never gets too fast at Aintree because they'll water to make sure it stays on the easy side.
Yeah, and actually by watering, it does mean that if it does rain, at least it goes through and doesn't just sit on the top. So we always think that, one for Arthur, he really, really needed soft, heavy ground, and yet he coped with the ground at Aintree. So I think they do a great job of it.
Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about the fences nowadays compared to the fences as they were later in the show. But a horse who's got real agility, Skew, is Stumptown. And I know he's a horse that you quite like for the race after his win in the cross country at Cheltenham.
Yeah, I've followed him I remember we went down to stand down with a horse, and we finished second to Stumptown, and I sort of followed him all the way through from there. And I like the horses. I know Intense Raffles has done it, but I like the horses of one of those distances, and winning 3 mile 5 round Cheltenham. If he's quick enough, just hold the place early, I think Stumptown's the one. Yeah,
and he's just got that agility, hasn't he, as well? Like, he's clever.
Yeah, I mean, a horse. Oh God, it's so funny. I don't mean, Luce always pulls me up. I say things like, in my day, we didn't have a cross-country race. So you would, so the race was completely different. They talked about 2.5 mile horses in then, but now the track, which we'll talk about, I'm sure, is flattened out a bit. I mean, the fences are flattened out a bit. So you needed a real stayer, and I think Stumptown fits in that. And his agility to jump around that course is also, he's obviously got a sharp brain,
A bit like you.
Well, I don't know. The little bit of brain that was there is getting slower and can't remember anything now. I remember her name. What's your name again?
Just call me darling.
What about you, Lucinda? Are you a Stumptown fan?
Yes, I suppose I would. I think that the prep for it that he's had has been fantastic. I'd also have a look at Iroko. We saw him at Kelso the other day. He's been running over 2.5 miles. He clearly stays 3.
Did you get a good look at him?
I did get a good look at him.
What did you think
but
of him?
I was there. He's a lovely big horse, really lovely, and very, actually, just as you were saying about being agile, he jumps beautifully. So I think he might have a little squeak.
Do you like Iroko best of the remaining McManuses? What's the plural of McManus? Is it McManuses or McManai? I'm not sure. Iroko, Percival Le Gallois, last year's winner, I Am Maximus, Meeting of the Waters, still got an incredibly strong hand. What am I missing out? Chantry House. Got loads of horses in there, even if I know the way you're thinking he's not running.
Yeah, no, Aroko would be my one as well. Yeah, I like him. Obviously, the form of the novice chase last year when he was second to Another Way of Thinking, that's worked out well. The third horse, Hartwood, was second in the Ryanair. The fourth horse, Chianti Classico, he won in Cheltenham at the start of the season, or in Ascot, should I say, and then got injured when third at Cheltenham. So that's good, strong form, and he's in nicely at the weights. Made a bad mistake in Cheltenham in December. You could say he caught the eye a little bit. It was a good run. And, you know, Kelso was a nice race for him. But with a view to the National, I'd imagine he is being primed for that.
Did you see any other horses around that time who you thought were just marking time a little bit, just getting themselves prepared to peak on Grand National Day? Any that leapt off the turf?
A horse who's down £15 since Cheltenham last season is, and a high class horse too, Brave Man's Game.
A bit of the old class.
Yeah, so he ran in what used to be the Aon Chase.
The Denman Chase.
The Denman Chase, sorry, yeah, at Newbury. Thought it was a nice run. I'd say he can build on that. I was at Newbury that day, he looked as if he'd plenty of conditions, so I'd say there was a bit to work on. He got up £2 for that, so he to me is coming down to I think he's 11 stone for a horse who's been placed in the Gold Cup and he's won a King George, and yeah, jumps really well. I think he could be a value play.
James Reevely is going to ride Brave Man's Game. Paul Nicholls, his stable jockey. Harry Cobden's going to ride Can Do Kid. Bryony Frost coming back. She's going to ride Stay Away Frave. Freddie Gingell on Hitman. The one I'm forgetting, 3 Under Through 5, is going to be ridden by Harry Skelton. So interesting, he's got his jockey bookings well sorted out, well in advance. We talked about one of the JP McManus horses in Iroko. Skew Iron Maximus is trying to come back for the second year to win it. We saw Tiger Roll do it not so long ago. Is it something that you can conceive of more readily now than you used to be able to, the idea of a multiple winner?
I do think sometimes horses, I think Corac Rambler did it, went the second year and said, no, I don't do it. And I've ridden horses that don't want to do it. But without being... He looks a tough horse. I'm Maximus. He doesn't look as if he takes a lot of notice of his fences sometimes. So
is that a good thing?
Well, you can brush through them now, can't you? You know, I'm not saying, you know, it just is a fact. You can push through the top. So because before last year, I remember thinking people saying he wouldn't jump round because he made mistakes. But again, it's a subject we touched on. Because they're well built, because it pushes them back on their hocks, and you can have a better ride around there. And I could imagine if he doesn't get too flippant, I'm Maximus. I mean, he's clearly, that was, you know, I mean, again, only in my little world, because Paul Corac went to the first. I looked at it and I thought, oh no, he wouldn't have beat I'm Maximus anyway. It was clearly close to a Gold Cup performance last year by I'm Maximus. And if you don't want to be winning every race between two Grand Nationals, do you? So he must have an outstanding chance.
But is that the way you read it last year, Lucinda? I know we lost Corac Rambler at the first, but was there something in his demeanour that day that suggested that he was back at Aintree and he didn't really want to do it again?
I think only just on the approach to the first. I mean, he loved, you know, we'd had a good season. He was third in the Gold Cup before that. He went there, hopes were high, but you could just see that he just, you know, Derek went for a long stride and the horse said, no, I don't think so, and just brushed through the top and came down. And he did then jump the second fence on his own, and he was just scared. He just overjumped it and obviously pulled himself up after that. But I think it is a tremendous effort, and I think, you know, it is a big race, and that's why it's got great prize money, and that's why it's wonderful to win it.
Talk about a few more. I mean, if JP McManus is loaded in this race, even without I know the way you're thinking, so is Gavin Cromwell, not just Stumptown, but also Vanillier, who's been second in the race before Barry, and Percival Le Gallois, and he might even get another one in down the bottom.
Yeah, Vanillier ran well in the cross-country Cheltenham. Ran off the track. Yeah, after running off the track, he nearly went the wrong course after the third, was it? And he was second in the race before. I think his form going into the race this year is better than it was when he disappointed last year. And he had a good level of form going into Aintree the previous year when he was second to Corac Rambler. So I'd say he's one with a chance. Percival Le Gallois, he'd promised a lot of days and didn't deliver. He came up trumps in Leopardstown. But to me, I'm not sure you could set your clock by him. He would have a chance on his best day, but Yeah, I'm not so sure. A horse actually ran in that race was 3-Card Bragg. I think he could have a chance. He probably was overused in Leopardstown. And his novice profile goes back, it ties in with Nick Rocket, Monty Starr, Corbett's Crossing and Beginner's Chase and Farius. That's worked out well. And he's in with a nice weight too now. He's probably needs a few to come out to get in, but he could be of interest.
Should squeak in just down the bottom. Nicky Henderson's never won the race before. We know that. That'll be one of the stories if he can do it this time. Do you have a feeling for Highland, Lucinda?
I do actually. I think he's my sort of outsider tip. I think he, his profile's really good. I know that he'll definitely go on good ground. He doesn't need to be sort of hock deep. And I think he's got a great chance. And I'd love to see Nicky win it.
How many Nickies did you ride round here?
I'm guessing 6 or 7 or even 8. I'd be first riding round Aintree in the top one of Nicky's back in 2000 or something like that.
He's won that a good few times.
Yeah, no, I won that for him a few times as well, but no, never went close in the national. Shakalaka Boom Boom, kind of half carted, jumped too well, travelled too well, was never going to get home behind.
Led for a long way, didn't he?
Led for a long way. Katie Walsh took it off me and Seabass going to the second last.
That was Neptune Collage,
yeah. He was the closest, although he was well beaten, but yeah, he was the one that I thought I had a chance of winning at one stage.
Okay, so you think Nicky's got a squeak this time?
I think so, yeah. I suppose we don't necessarily know the type it is to win a national now. It's slightly different. You know, it was a non-stairs race. Like Monty's Pass won it. He didn't get the trip in the Galway Plate over a stiff 2-6. So non-stairs, like it was always the non-stairs race. If you jumped well, you travelled. Where now it's more of a relentless galloper. Now, Ian Maximus put in a big performance last year. That's the classiest performance we've seen in a long time. But say Neptune Collage.
You forgot Cork Rambler.
No, he was, yeah. I wasn't going to get away with that one, was I?
The thing is, you're covering all bases here because you've got one for Arthur who's your more...
Yeah.
And Correct Rambler who's,
Yeah, but Correct Rambler... Correct Rambler would
Just
deceive
fill
you.
in the adjectives to your own...
He would deceive you a little bit, Correct Rambler. Like, he's only ever doing as much as he has to. He's gone through the motions a
Probably
bit.
could have won 3 Gold Cups.
I'd say he could have, yeah.
We always joke that he's got bunnies in his ears telling him what to do. That's why he puts his head like that. The bunnies are talking.
And he's still like that. He is still like that, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. He does his own thing every day. It just depends what the bunnies are saying.
Do you miss not having him out on the racecourse, though?
No, not really, because I love seeing him at home, and he just loves what he does. He led the schooling the other day. Scoo rode him and led a load of 3-year-olds going up the schooling.
Is it reasonable to say that he is your favourite horse of all time, or the one that you become closest to?
I don't want to put one for Arthur. All these. I think as a trainer,
we can read it in your body.
Yeah,
language.
but I think as a trainer, you become closer to them than you do as a jockey. And therefore the stable lad, everybody, you're with them all the time. With the jockey, you ride them, you jump off, and you're looking for the next one. So I think I'd like to see Corach, to say that Corach epitomises so much about what a steeplechaser is about. He's intelligent, he's athletic, he stayed, he could do what he wanted. And, so in all those ones, I joking apart when we spoke earlier, when Earth Summit, he was... just a magnificent. He was so slow up the gallop, Earth Summit, that if he went up in front, the poor girl would have to pull off because they would all pass him. And he loved the soft ground, Earth Summit. And the night before the National, it absolutely poured with rain. So Nigel and I are singing and dancing.
This is 1998 for our young
All
viewers.
right. and outside his box was a big, huge puddle. And he wouldn't come out of his box through the puddle to go into the parade ring, so he was late into the parade ring. So I just love the character of that, to be so tough to win a Scottish English and a Grand National, yet wouldn't come through the puddle.
Did you worry about the water jump then as a result of that?
No, he went like that, the water jump. And then Binderee, Binderee was Brasilia, he was Celtic Cone,
and he only died the other day, Binderee, at the age of 30-odd or something, didn't he?
And which is
Amazing
wonderful,
horse.
isn't it? That people criticise our sport and stuff. These horses get a wonderful life that they're actually living longer than they ever would in the world. And so Binderee was a small horse, completely different than how he jumped round. It was in the back of my mind he wouldn't, because he was a small, flat-backed horse. And but they surprise you. You know, you can't always see which we're talking. We don't know what a Grand National horse is.
But the things that you do need are intelligence, tenacity, athleticism, and stamina. You need all of those things in abundance. So who has those qualities for this Grand National or any other Grand National this year, Lucinda? One that you like and maybe one that we haven't mentioned at a bigger price?
Well, I was going to say Iroko and Highland, so unfortunately you mentioned both of them.
No, that's great. Iroko toward the front of the market, Highland maybe a bigger price. Barry?
Yeah, I'm with Lucinda on Iroko. But the other three I mentioned, I think Vanilla definitely of interest, Three Card Bragg and Brave Man's Game.
Like it. You will be about the only person who fancies Brave Man's Game as well, I reckon, because people are kind of taken against him, haven't they? He's a bit of a bogey horse for a lot of people now.
You'd love to get Paul Nicholls' view on him.
Yeah, I bet, yes, and he's down £15. Skew?
I like Three Card Bragg. He's owned by a gentleman who's got a share in the horses here. So it's a horse again I've followed for a long time. Looked at good stare over hurdles. I watched that race. Was it Nace or Navan he ran that? And he just made a mistake at the wrong time.
Yeah.
But he jumped a bit big after that. But if he just gets jumping, my two for the race are Three Card Bragg and Stump Down, because I think all the attributes you mentioned earlier to win a Grand National, he's got many of them, you know.
Okay, well, I still think it might be intense raffles. If there's one at a bigger price we haven't mentioned, I thought Monbeg Genius might run quite well. Just come back to himself a bit this year, slipping in at the bottom.
Yeah, he was well beaten in the Welsh National there. I like him because I like him going back to when he was third at the festival behind Corrick Rambler and Martin Brazelshurst.
Yes, exactly. The horse,
You're
the fast or slow, fast or slow.
Yeah.
Fast or slow,
So go back, but we were hanging on to that form, and he ran well then in the Old Hennessy as well too. So he has potential. He does have potential. He's unproved, or he hasn't delivered on that potential yet. So maybe this could be the time.
He's this year's Mon Mome. You know, the one that everyone was all over last year. You've forgotten about completely. Anyway, he's one for me at a bigger price. Right. Let's talk a little bit about the way the race has changed a little and its dimensions. Obviously, last year was the first time the race was down to 34 runners from 40, and the couple didn't make it, so there were only 32, so smaller field. The first fence had been moved closer to the start, so slightly shorter distance all round, and we know that the fence adjustments had been made in the main in 2013, but they've continued to be modified since then. Lucinda, do you like the race as it is now relative to the race it was in the days when Skew was riding in it and the beginning of Barry's days?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's still a test. It's not the extraordinary test as it was before, but I think you've got to be careful about it. We can't keep, asking the impossible from horses. And I think, the improvements that we've made are legitimate, and I think they're worthwhile doing.
And also, Barry, you rode in a few Grand Nationals. You won a Grand National when it was a bit more old style, at the beginning of the noughties. Although, people like Ginger McCain would have told you, well, it was nothing like it was in the 70s and the 30s and the 1850s or whatever. You also rode in a lot of more modern nationals. Did it feel any different to you when you were lining up at the start, or was the adrenaline level still the same?
The adrenaline level would be the same, but a different feeling on the approach. So when you were going to, say, back to the early noughties, Monty's past 2003, he was brilliant, but horses that would have ridden before that or even after that, Slim Pickens was third and fourth, I think, a couple of years after that. But you're going down to the fence and you could feel your horse. He's like that. He's grown as you come inside, the 4 or 5 strides in the fence, because, the presence of the fence, they start getting on their hocks, as Skew was saying. And when a horse to get on his hocks, to describe it, it's like running to kick a ball. So about 4 or 5 strides before the ball, you adjust your stride, you measure, you get the power behind you. That's what getting on your hocks is, so you can give the jump, the power, the follow through for the kick, if you like. So that's what the National was about. Mm-hmm. But now there were stiffer fences, they're more forgiving now, so you get away with mistakes, but horses are a little bit more casual, and like that, the first year Tiger Road won it, I thought, well, I don't want to follow him. He was about 15-3, he hurdled fences, and he goes and wins it the following year. So that's the different type from what was before. So it is different, but I think the changes are right. But I think that there's more stuff can be looked at, I think.
Is there a horse that you rode round there that either didn't complete or didn't jump very well that you would think would almost win a national now?
No, I can't think of one. Maybe he probably wasn't quite right. One of Kim Bailey's good little horse that was second at Gold Cup, smashing little horse. But he was small, more tiny.
Docklands Express.
Docklands Express.
Yeah.
So maybe he would have suited, wouldn't have found such an effort to go there. Yeah, my take on it, being so old, is
You're not that old, for goodness sake.
My father winning
Yeah.
there, which I've pointed out to you 100 times.
So that was Oxo.
That was Oxford in
in
1959. But Dad rode when there was no front on the fences. I can't remember. There was first year he rode in it. It's in that old weighing room at Aintree. There's a picture of them, 7 or 8 of them. Pat Taft, one of the Maloney brothers, a whole lot of others. 7 or 8 of them all from the first, and that was Dad's first ever national. And then 3 or 4 of them got up and won a Grand National. I mean, it was a different. I don't think there was any safety factor numbers when Dad first went round. So we're talking about 32,
Yeah.
33. So I think national hunt racing can take a great deal of pride in that we've improved the welfare of the horses, and we can, while people are knocking us, we are continuing to improve. And without national hunt racing, these horses wouldn't live. And I just believe, look, Barry and I were talking before. I don't want to see it alter too much more, but I think we've got to be proud of what we've done. It is still jumping green fences, lots of colours. That photo shot down over the first 5 or 6 down to beaches. I remember my dad said he jumped upside the Irishman, jumped the one before beaches, and he said, "Jesus, Mick, did you see me jump beaches there?" And Dad said, "Sit tight, it's the next one." So I don't know if that's true, but it's a good story. But no, so yeah, that picture down to beaches is fantastic, and I think it still captures. Sport has changed a lot. When I was a young man, it was the FA Cup and the Grand National and things, but now we have every sport and you can on telly. It's different. It hasn't got the huge audience that it did have in those days, but it's still a magnificent race. And as I say, I repeat myself, I think racing can be proud of what it's done towards the welfare of the horse and the welfare of this race.
Obviously different sort of makeup to the race now. As I said, only 34 runners. And you're going to get, because the big stables are so big, you're going to get maybe half a dozen from Willie Mullins, the same from Gordon Elliott. You got 5 from Paul Nicholls. Any idea on how we could diversify the makeup of the field a little bit, Barry, or do you just think just let him in, whatever, just it'll all come round cyclically?
I think it flies in the face of competition if you're to limit trainers, because, for example, Willie has 8 in it for 5 different owners now, and 6 of them are likely to get in. So but there are 5 different owners he has those for, so you have to respect that. Each owner is different. To me, where I'd love to see targeted is 2 things. So you have the reserve is taken out on Friday. Mm-hmm. So you had 2 non-owners last year on the day. If there was a reserve on the day, you could bring in 2. You could have had a full card. So I think that's one thing that should be made. Also, I think recent form has to come into play. So Mr. Incredible has pulled up on 3 of his last 4 starts and refused on the 4th.
They're surely not going to let him run, are they?
Well, he has a spot.
He pulled himself up again the other day.
But he has a spot, unless otherwise, he has a spot. Royal Pagaille and Meeting of the Waters have both been tailed off in the last 3 starts. And there is a 4th one, is Conflated, has been beaten on average 34 lengths his last 5 starts. He was beaten 15 lengths the last day, but he's beaten 50 lengths on previous starts. So they're to me, are uncompetitive horses. And those 4 are in the top 34.
Yeah, you're getting a horse like Mr. Vango who can't get in, even though he's now rated 152 and would have sailed in if he'd had that rating before the weights came out. So can anything be changed, Lucinda? Do you like the idea of automatic qualifying races? So if you win a Welsh National, a Scottish National, a Haydock Trial, races like that, you automatically get in the race?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's exactly what I was just thinking when Barry was saying that maybe we should say that ditch those 4 and allow for the so-called qualified ones in. I don't know. I mean, sometimes that would make the qualifying races more competitive. That might be a good thing.
What do you mean? It would be off, do you mean, rather than what you did at Coracramba? Or Myretown. It's good you sat there on your high horse, but throwing these horses in
our
handicaps.
horses do it themselves. They having them in handicaps, that's it's just their progression, my darling, isn't it?
So who have you jobbed up for Aintree this year for one of the supporting races? Have you got one for that nice 3 mile handicap?
What have we got? Oh, well, we've got Ahoy, Senor. He's
definitely not well handicapped.
Well handicapped. Okay, Ski, what do you think?
I don't know. I'm not
Well, hang
telling-
on.
I'm not
Ahoy
telling you.
Senor is going to be the team captain come what may, isn't he? And his record at Aintree's off the scale good. 66-1 winner of the Sefton, winner of the Mild, made twice second in the bowl, into the bowl again. Is he good after Cheltenham?
He seems well. You watched him go up the gallop there. I'm very happy with him. He's one of those. I can't think of the right word, but he's one of the most talented horses I've ever seen in ridden or trained.
I thought you were going to say infuriating, but
No, you can't. You have such admiration for him. He's got.
because he's so good.
I'm so soft. Lucinda was soft. You give these horses songs after them. There's a song called "There's a Monster Coming Over the Hill," and when you watch him come up over that hill, he loves. Again, you're going back to the welfare and what should they do it or should they not do it. He loves it. He loves what he's doing, and I think he just gets a bit blasé. His fall at Cheltenham was just he sort of snatched at the fence. So look, and he goes right. I don't know why he likes Aintree, because he jumps right, and but his record around Aintree is excellent. So it is something, sometimes I don't know how the big yards. Well, I know how Gordon does. I saw him on telly doing it. But I don't know how Willie and those do it. But you get that. You get over Cheltenham, and then you're not flat, but you've aimed a lot at Cheltenham, and then suddenly this week it's Aintree, and your little heart picks up again. The worries you start having. A dream. It's worse than a dream. You wake up. Have I declared? Why did I run in with blinkers? It was a dream. So the worries are starting to come in. But I am pleased. We've gone to the Grand National 2-3 years with Geraghty and those horses. I don't know. It's not very competitive and stuff, but I'm glad we haven't got a runner in the National this year. It's just sometimes it's just the pride of just running, but. So I'm quite pleased to ease back and just worry about Ahoy Senor. But we have got another nice horse going down, the horse called Jet to Vegas. I'll let the boss tell you about that.
Go on.
Well, I was just about to tell you about that. So, Jet to Vegas, you say that we handicap out. We ran and rated 120.
I didn't say that. It was your other half.
Oh, yeah, not past me, yeah.
Throwing you under the bus.
We ran and rated 120, 122 in the Premier Hurdle at Kelso, and he's now rated 142. So who messed up there? Anyway, he's now going to Aintree in one of the listed races. He can either go over 2 miles or 2.4, something that Skew and I will be discussing for a long time.
It'd have been a good thing in that conditional jockey's handicap hurdle, wouldn't he? Still, never mind. You messed that one up.
Yeah.
Barry, in terms of the rest of Aintree this year, obviously your eyes will be firmly fixed on a horse that you've had so much to do with, Constitution Hill. He'll run in the Aintree hurdle. Were you surprised they bowled that googly?
I suppose I didn't necessarily see it coming because it's a tight enough turnaround, but not surprised. Now I was with Michael Buckley and Nicky at Cheltenham afterwards a few days later, and we were just chatting. He had a few cuts and bruises and that's, but they hadn't really had a chance to assess. But obviously he's come out of the race really well, and he needs a run, is the impression I get. So waiting for Punchestown would have been too long, where if he had a harder race necessarily it would have been the right thing then, but no, it sounds like he needs a run. So yeah, sure, it's the right thing to do, and I look forward to watching him.
We actually might get the race that we half imagined we might get at Cheltenham, because Lossiemouth looks as though she might head that way. Not Impossible Brighter Days Ahead could shelve in there as well, and suddenly we could actually get the champion hurdle that we thought we were going to get.
Potentially, yeah. He's won it before, so, but he wasn't as impressive over 2.5. So I suppose that's something for the opposition to focus on, maybe.
Have they done what you suggested they do?
Jump a fence. Yeah. He jumped one loose after so I didn't see now, but he
did he?
I was told he jumped one loose.
That?
I didn't know. That's great. What a great bit of loose schooling. Well done.
Yeah, obviously he beat them to it. I know there was a pole work was the plan, and a fence was felt as well. So yeah.
Okay.
There's never.
There's no stones left unturned.
Not in the schooling department, especially.
Do you think when horses have fallen over hurdles, schooling them over fences is actually quite good for them?
Dependent on the type of fall. To me, he was just blasé and casual, so he needs to be reminded to have just cop on and have a bit of respect for what's in front of you.
Sure. Yeah, and I always find people ask questions: which would you rather ride over a fence or a hurdle? I think it's if you're on the right horse, it's easier to ride over a fence than it is a hurdle because these, especially, I fell in you probably didn't, but I fell in a champion hurdle coming down the hill when he would have won. Granville again, he won it next year. I mean, they just flick. They just, and you're going.
There's more trust over a hurdle, where the horse over a fence, they do more for you. So, no, I'd agree with you. Like, people say you'd surely rather ride over a hurdle, say, in your latter years. And you said, no, actually, a fence, there's a better connection where there's more over a hurdle. You're just, you need to be a little bit more on the edge and blasé about it. So he's just gone too far that way.
And it's almost as if the top hurdlers, and even the top 2 mile chasers, they win or they turn over, don't you know?
And they probably don't turn over, thankfully, that often, but they need to be on the edge. They're on the edge.
That's the word, They live in and sometimes, I remember you come in, you ride on them and come in and you say, you've lived life on the edge. And there's no adrenaline kick quite like it. You've pushed it to the edge. And it could be an ordinary race around Worcester or something, but you've just...
A 2 mile chase.
You just flick the top, you know.
But that horse, the New Lion at the last hurdle this year, Harry Skelton was riding at JP's. I mean, there's that much, isn't there?
Yeah, he was all in.
Yeah,
that was a great ride, great performance. But Harry was brilliant on him.
Is he going to be in the Champion Hurdle mix next year?
Potentially. But he did work hard to win. So would you fancy the second horse to be competitive in a Champion Hurdle?
I can't remember who was second. The Gordon Elliott's horse.
Yeah,
who was second?
the Yellow
Final
Clay.
Demand was third. The Yellow Clay. That's it.
Yeah, so I wouldn't fancy the Yellow Clay, but that doesn't mean the New Lion won't progress. He is a sharp horse. He's a horse with a lot of pace.
So many horses. Well, it's just wider horses win that race, and Isterbrack won it too, didn't he?
Isterbrack, Hardy Eustace won it.
And then go and win it.
I won it in Simon Sig, and Nicky wanted to go for the Supreme, but I felt he could make a mistake and he'd have more time over further. So
I thought we said
have
it was
different
because you had
reasons.
it in your sevenfold, and that's
No, that was Conor
Murray.
Yeah, I didn't invest in that, unfortunately. I'd
No,
have given up.
you
I'd have
didn't
given
bet
up
in those
years.
days, obviously,
No, I'd have given up riding years earlier if I did.
If we're talking about what's going to happen at next year's festival already, where's Myretown going to land up? I mean, so he won the other day off. How well did you get him handicapped? 129. Was it?
Yeah, was it? Well, 124 actually, worse than that.
What's he now?
No, yeah,
140?
he's now, but he was 129 going in, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was
So what is he
very
now,
low. He only
140
just got in. Do you remember? It was he only got in by one. Anyway, that was.
But are we talking about Grade 1 caliber animal here who's just been masquerading as
do you know what? I jump in here. I remember winning a handicap on Celtic Shot at Cheltenham, and it's the Great Wood now. I don't know what it's called in those days, and it bolted up the hill. And Kevin Mooney, who was Fort Warwin's jockey and worked for Barry Hills and Charlie Hills, was probably one of the best judges of a horse and racing that I ever came across. And he said to me, anything that can gallop up a hill like that at Cheltenham is worthy of running in the very top. He said that'll nearly win the top.
So you're answering
So
my
my
question.
answering is that, look, I'm not saying other horses will catch him up, but anything that... What impressed me most about him, and I'm not, it's a big step in carrying the weights, but the further he went up that hill, the further he went away. And in the years gone by, I'm just saying ordinary Gold Cups. Corrick Rambler was placed in one. I can go back. Charter Party won that, and I expect you. And Fast or Slow was beaten in it. Good horses come out of that and run well in the top races. So I think he offers hope. That's the word.
Lucinda?
I'd definitely go for the Gold Cup. Why not?
There we are. So that's the point, isn't it, Barry? We obsess over what handicap marker horses won off, quite rightly, because that's what the handicap system's there for. It's been established over centuries. But that visceral feeling of, if a horse can gallop up the hill that well, there's every chance he'll be able to do it effectively in a much better grade.
A Plutard did it
Plutard,
the year
course,
before.
yeah. In the novice handicap.
In the novice handicap. But it's hard to put a measure, when you talk about handicapping horse or not handicapping, or just progressing, it's hard to put a measure on it. I remember Max Joy getting beaten in a maiden hurdle in Downroyal in October, November. He won the Swinton 6 months later. He was second in the champion hurdle a year after that. So, but he got beaten in a maiden in Downroyal and won one in Downpatrick. Like, that's, they were ordinary races. So how far did he progress in 16 months? So you can't. But like that, he just progressed. He wasn't handicapped. You know, so a horse can stay ahead of his mark by improving naturally. So I think potentially your horse is one of those.
Do you think the way that the sort of horses that we buy tend to be that type? So we were talking earlier about buying pointers, and we like buying the ones that are that can keep on improving because they handicap themselves.
Yeah.
They keep on improving, and as long as they do keep on improving, you can go for some nice targets.
I think it's also, and I'm speaking this from having been in so many yards through my career, you know, been in Jesse's, Nicky's, you know, Edward O'Grady, Tom Taff. You get a good flavour for how it works. But some yards train for horses to progress and improve. They're not maybe as hard, they're not pressed as hard in their younger years, and they're able to then develop at their own pace. So I think that plays a big part in it too, where some yards would ripen their horses younger. They get to a good level, but don't necessarily progress much further from that.
Now, if we're talking about who's going to make an impression through the next few seasons, and you're talking about the way people bring horses on, I mean, that was exquisite the way that fellow William Hill ambassador Gavin Cromwell brought on I Know the Way You're Thinking to win the Gold Cup. What characterises him, do you think, as a trainer? Where would you bracket him? You live pretty near him.
Yeah, I do, and I know Gavin for years. We've travelled together, we've had great times, but I've watched him progress from, like, Gavin started off training on the all-weather in Dundalk, was his grounding, and that's not probably that long ago, point to points, and just progressed from there. It's only now that he's getting into a better type of horse. You know, he was winning with handicappers, looking for that little bit of improvement, but in the last 2 seasons, I think he's brought it to another level. His horses seem to have more pace. It's how he's training them. I know we were down there before Cheltenham doing some filming, and I was getting a taste for how he works his horses now is different from how he would have done before. And I think he's getting his horses have more pace, they travel stronger. It's just he's added a layer to his armour.
That just about brings us to a close. Thank you all very much. Have we worked out how many Grand Nationals it is between everybody now?
But he's the most.
So four
Yeah,
to 1, we reckon. Yeah. So 7 Grand Nationals between them.
I want to take my dad's as well. 5.
Okay. 5 Grand Nationals between them. Not a runner between them this year. But that, of course, what that buys us in lack of involvement is much greater objectivity, which is why we left William Hill ambassador Gavin Cromwell at home to look after his 74 Grand National runners, and we talked a lot of rubbish here. But I hope it's been entertaining rubbish and you've enjoyed it. You can join in the comments below. So thanks to Skew, to Lucinda, and of course to Barry, and thank you for watching. If you've got your own national pick as well, then you can stick that in the comments below, and I'm sure everyone can either join in with you or laugh at you, whatever, depending on how sensitive you happen to be. Thank you very much for watching our Inside Track Grand National special. If you'd like to watch previous episode, you can click the link that's on the screen. This was brought to you by William Hill. 18+. Please gamble responsibly.